Now, across Africa, the legacy of misrepresentation still lingers. Now, many indigenous belief systems were stripped of nuance and reduced to caricatures, creating generations taught to fear or reject their own heritage. This culture disruption did not end with colonialism. Its effects remain visible in education systems, popular media, and public discourse. Yet a new generation is pushing back. Young Africans are actively seeking alternative histories, interrogating what they were taught and demanding fuller, more accurate narratives. Through film research and digital platforms, culture is being reintroduced not as religion, but to be adopted, but as history to be understood. The critical tension today is this: how do we reclaim cultural heritage responsibly without igniting religious conflict or even rewriting history through another narrow lens? Well, it's not about to be a monologue. I have joining me today to discuss this Ayankola Ayanwuyi, an author and cultural educator. We also have with us Ayomide King, an actor and an art director. And of course, we have joining us Ogunmola Precious, a content creator as well. So without wasting time, I'll start with the guests in the studio and then we'll take it up from there. Thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, so I want to start off by asking how and why, if in your own opinion, do you think that African belief systems were historically misrepresented to the modern day generation, and why is it that they cannot coexist?
Okay, yeah, so even I would say even before the modern day coexisted and all of that, our African culture was not misrepresented. It was not misunderstood. It was changed intentionally, and there are reasons to why I say so. During the colonialism and all of that, the whites made us see our culture as something dark, something way too negative, of which they've done a whole lot of research. I wasn't there, but I read, and even before telling stories, I make research, and through my research, I see that they've gotten close to us. They know how we do our thing. They see what we do, and they see how big it is for us. And we, the black, then we don't even have this intellect. Then we were way too ignorant to make them change whatever we believe in. Look at Brazil today now. Oshun is well celebrated. Germany, Shango is well celebrated. But they give us this belief that what you guys are doing is fetish, it is too dark, to their own advantage. So it is not by accident. It happened intentionally. They took their cultural heritage from us way too intentional, just for them to know, just for them to achieve it for their own use. So whatever thing we say now that okay, it was it was intentional. They don't want us to see that. I'm not saying Christianity that they gave us and Islam that they gave us is wrong. No, I practice Christianity as much as I love Isheshe a lot. I don't do Isheshe, but I love Isheshe, and I also do Christian. I'm a Christian. But don't let us have that belief that it was misunderstood. You understanding something is okay. I don't know how they do this thing. Yeah, it is my bad. I made them feel their thing is no. They didn't make us feel our thing is dark by mistake. They did it intentionally. They want to take everything we have from us.
Okay, so Ayomide, do you think that on the other, side of the coin, do you think we ourselves were also so gullible? Because I mean, we've seen cases of places where, colonial masters would go and try to infuse their own, religious practices. But yes, they were able to colonize their lands, but they were not able to take away their culture. For example, you go to South Africa, Namibia, these places were colonized by, the Germans, and, but they still strongly believe in their culture. And even till date, there's some Zulu dances they do, and you're wondering, like, people, they still infiltrate the Western culture with theirs. But it feels as though when it got to Nigeria and other African climes, we just accepted so easily and then demonized our own, religious and even cultural traditions.
So South Africa. I don't even see South Africa as an African country. I see them way beyond African country. I do say something that West Africa as a whole we have the highest set of gullible people in West Africa. You tell us things, we believe immediately. We don't even want to make our research. If I tell you right to this present age, we have a lot of African parents that still believe in this saying that, okay, my child trying to know anything, tradition is bad, leave my child in the Christian way, let him follow God. If your child is going in that traditional sector, doesn't mean he's not following God. It's just that the way they call their God and the way we call our God is different, but it is still the same thing. So, this is West Africa. We have the highest set of godly people there. So, we are quick to believe in whatever they say to us. We don't even want to make our research. Because why will you tell me now that, okay, in West Africa, I know, even in Nigeria, and I know some people that you will tell that, okay, this thing is happening, this thing is happening. Okay, why would you will come to me and tell me, look at that nigga, he's a very, very bad person, don't work with him. I won't make research. It happens in Nigeria a whole lot. It happens, I won't
Just
make research.
inherit
and I will
someone's
that
anger.
to that person. That yes, since this person doesn't like this person, I don't know what he did to him, but for the fact that this is my best friend, that is my friend, but my best friend is saying I don't need to. So we are quick to believe in whatever they tell us.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you so much for that, by the way. We also have with us Ogunmola Precious, who's a content creator joining us virtually. Precious, thank you for being here. I would like to find out from your own perspective, what specific ideas or symbols would you say were most distorted, and what purpose did these or have these distortions served till date?
So from a point of view, one of the popular narrative I got about this is actually the interpretation of even the Bible, talking about the Christian religion, that some of it were not done critically, and talking about the representation of the devil issue with the messenger, and there was thereabout. So I had a project a while ago whereby we actually talked about Yoruba history and African history generally, how the whites brought in their belief, their gods, using the mythology that they have, and they were able to factionize it into movies that were watched. And these days, it looks like they are super woman, superheroes. There was now the conversation of how about we Nigerians still have our cultural belief framed into conventional lives, framed into movies and narratives that people can also enjoy, still withholding that culture. Now, in two ways, our culture have the good side and the bad side. Definitely, there is always two sides to a coin. There are some cultural beliefs that have some terrible parts, ritual killings, the sacrifices, human sacrifices, how a part of it victimized lady, how a part of it says men can do this, women can do this. There are a lot of those things, but there are also the cultural parts that also teach good beliefs, that also build equity, that also bring good rain, that avoid theft and all of those things. So it is both sides. Now, it is also very important to also look into the good side, the teachings and the good values we can get from it over everything. Everything entirely has its own good parts and its bad parts. But what I think civilization and modern thing have done is it removes almost everything and gave it a kind of painting that this is bad, this is good. As much as there are a lot of bad and a lot of good, but it has been generalized as good, bad. Christianity, Islam, good, traditional, bad. I think that is where we need to clarify there.
All right, thank you for that, Ogunmola Precious. Let me come back to Ayomide and talk about the long-term cultural and even psychological impact on some of these displacements of our cultural heritage and our tradition that we are supposed to have upheld. What is the impact of it on the African culture, on the younger generation?
I would say generational disconnection. We are not connected anymore. We have cultural shame, fear of ancestral knowledge. We don't even want to know what our culture is about again. We just die it down. They made us see our culture as dark, and it is not something that is even meant to happen, because psychologically it even affects most people. Like, if you tell them about anything cultural, they'll be like, no, I don't want to hear this. Okay, so I was last 2 years, that was 2023, I was on a film set. A friend of mine had an injury on that set. They tried to they gave him first aid, but on that set, someone was like, Bobo, I know Abba that I can mix for you to put on the surface of that injury till you get home. Nigga was like, no, I don't do all that. 2 months after that, we lost him due to that same injury. So those are one of the effects it has on us. You can't tell. I know a lot of Christian brothers that you will tell that, okay, brother, please, don't go this way, don't do this way. They won't believe because they see you as a traditionalist. They coin it into juju. Like, okay, yeah, anything tradition is now juju. It is now jazz. Juju is traditional. Juju is a traditional word for us, yeah, juju. But what is jazz? Jazz is just a general word. But they now make us see this thing as jazz. And it's this younger generation now, it is even affecting us a whole lot because we don't know anything. All we know now is Christianity and Islam. All thanks to filmmaking. Due to filmmaking, I now have to go traditional because I write stories, I shoot films. I said something, I said filmmakers even need to do a lot because these are cultural heritage. We're taking true stories because they told them stories. Everything they said to them were lies. It was stories that, okay, this and this. We'll bring it back through this storytelling again. We'll tell them another set of story. But I feel filmmakers ourselves, we are not yet in that angle of that storytelling part. We are seeing epic movies now, yeah. Epic movies are doing fine, but those are not the kind of movies we should even be doing all the time to bring back our cultural heritage. I'm working on a story now for about 2025. Big shout out to Ibrahim Chata. We are working on the storytelling together. Obatala. Those are the kind of things we need to be bringing back. If Obatala comes out now, probably in 2-3 years time I shoot and I bring it out. I'm very sure, if not 20 or 30%, we want to go back and know the full thing that Obatala is all about. Because I can't say everything finished. But people want to go back. That way, we are dragging people back to their cultural heritage. We are dragging them back to know what their culture is all about. We don't just need to be there, be doing this, we are doing... No, it is...
So I'm glad that you actually brought this up, and I want to bring up this question because, I mean, you are a filmmaker, right? So there's been an ongoing debate, quite disconnected, different content creators will raise the issue, but it seems like it's clashing. So recently, a random lady on social media called out Nigerian filmmakers. There's a new movie that is making the rounds, and I'm not going to mention names, but the lady was like, you know what, Nigerian filmmakers were tired of seeing the same love story over and over again. A rich man falls in love with a poor girl. We have a lot of rich heritage, traditional stories that we can tell to people. And another thing that happens is we are not telling our stories. The Westerners will come and try to tell our stories. And, in one of I think there was a meeting some years ago where an actor, Genevieve, was saying, nobody can tell an African story like the Africans, and she referenced Wakanda, the Wakanda story.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly telling of what the Africa story is actually about. But in a situation where Africans themselves are not telling their stories, they're leaving space for Westerners to come and explore the stories that we have and tell them in their own way. How do we now create a balance there? Because Nigerian filmmakers are so, would I say, obsessed with telling fictional stories, making people feel good. One day you're walking on the street and you just see one rich man that will call you a chalugo and things like that. No shades to any filmmaker, but there's a lot more stories that we can tell. So what is happening there in the filmmaking industry? Is it that there's a competition for a fictional kind of stories that we're not even focused on telling the actual stories that even brought us here, the wars that we had to fight before colonial masters, how the kings were before now? We know nothing about that.
So that is still the point where I would say ignorance. It is still the effect of this colonialism taking all our cultures away. You can't tell what you don't know. It is what you know you will tell people. So most of them don't know this thing, and most of them are not even ready to like go way long to like learn. Okay, I said I'm writing Obatala now since I got that inspiration to write Obatala during lockdown. Until date, they are still adding a whole lot. At some point, my writer was like, okay, could you let's choose this thing like this? Let's look for investors. I was like, yo, bro, I don't think I'm satisfied with this thing. There is a part of this story that I haven't said. And luckily, I was at Afuchata last year, October. But Abraham sat me down and said some other things to me that I was like, you see, well, see what I am telling you. If you had said you want to give it out to investors, we won't know this part of the story again. So they need to sit down, learn. There is no competition. It is what they know that they will tell. And most of them are not ready to go and sit back. They are not ready to go back to their book and like start jotting. Most filmmakers now want to like shoot movie. I want to shoot movie. Let me shoot what I have in my head. Let me make my money and go. Let me shoot what I have in my head. Let me make my money and go. So they are not ready to like sit down and go back to their book and go for a long-term thing. There is no way you, if you make, the only person like, I won't even mention his name, but just a particular filmmaker will shoot a movie this year and like drop in like 2-3 years. We have a project that it is not out. We shot the project in 2023. He has shot another one this year. The one he shot this year is dropping this December, but the one he shot in 2023 is not out because he's still trying to like add some other things to it because it tells a little bit of our culture.
Yeah.
So he's still trying to add. So that is like the only filmmaker I would say is still in that space of I want to learn, I want to tell the cultural story. It's even the one that brought back this our epic story. He diverted away from this drama, romance, and all of that.
Yeah.
Now, and all of them now are going into it, but go into it and tell something different. You don't need to be war all the time. There are a lot of our cultural heritage that war didn't even happen, not all the time. We didn't have war all the time. Tell them the effect of Oshun. Let them see the effect of Shango. Shango is not a terrible god. We now picture Shango as someone that if you need to swear for somebody, don't swear with Shango for the person will die.
Okay. I mean, I want us to look at the content creation angle of things, and thank you very much for that, by the way. Let me come back to Precious now. So we have touched base, with the fact that a lot of filmmakers have a lot to do in terms of telling our stories. Now, it's one thing to tell our stories. It's another thing to tell our stories accurately. And I can say that a lot of content creators are quite complicit when it comes to, would I say representation or the lack of it. So it feels like some stories that we even tell, the few people who now, are intentional about even telling our historical stories sometimes do not tell it accurately. And then it now becomes subject to misrepresentation. Like Ayomide said, it's what Westerners know that they will tell. Even for us as Nigerians, it's what filmmakers know, the stories that they know that they'll tell. And you see that a lot of filmmakers are not willing to put into the work of doing their research. They just want to get the movies out. They want to get the stories out. The same thing for Westerners. What they hear about Nigeria, what they hear about Africa is what they want to tell to the world. That before you know, there's another blockbuster coming about a story that they know nothing about. So now in the terms of content creation, would you say that some of the content that we put out is what makes, is what contributes to misrepresentation of the facts? Similar to how content creators will portray Nigeria as a scam society. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but we now tend to highlight that more than what we actually are. And then when Westerners carry it, we get angry. So what role would you say that content creators and content creation in general plays when it comes to representing Africa, the African culture, who we truly are in terms of storytelling, our history and the likes?
Based on that, I would say not everybody knows this story. Not everybody knows this story. We do have a lot of general knowledge about our stories. And one of the issues about African stories and our story are being passed down is mouth to mouth. We don't have it well documented. Someone said even the sharpest, the faintest pen is sharper than the sharpest mind. Give it time. The story somebody knew 10 years ago or 50 years ago, the person's getting or trying to pass it down. There are a lot of alterations and different things. And a lot of our discoveries, even in African discoveries, in African civilization over time, we don't document our things down. Then when the Westerner comes, the colonial comes, the white man comes, they just pick it like, wow, this thing is there. They document it and it becomes their own. Then you say it's invented by this. Somebody was contesting who discovered maybe River Niger, and someone sent Mogo Park, and it was like, Mogo Park came from outside to come and discover what we discovered here. Well, how come we did not document it? So there is always that break in linkage of documentation. Africans don't document their knowledge, and it is just passed from stories to stories, and a lot of alterations there. So it boils down to many people don't even know this story, yet know how well to tell it. So I think a few advancement has been coming to that over the years, whereby we document our stories so that it does not have the alteration and we keep on telling the original stories. Now, the reason why people tell the wrong stories is because they don't know the story well, and they just think about this is how we think it should be, and they just put it in that way. Now, over time, with the advent of themes, cultures, and the way we put our narrative out there, people tell what they know. That is why we have the alterations in the originality of the stories. And people tell the stories they feel people will take the most. Now, if there's an original story and it's going to be put out in films, I'm sure a lot of the stories, some part of it are going to be doctored to fit in what the audience will like. Because as much as people are willing to tell stories, they want to make money too. So even if they are telling the story accordingly, I know that, okay, talking about the cinematic view of this will not go well as planned, or will not go well to fit in the viewer perspective and what people will like. They will change a few things there so that it flows. So as content creators, it is what we see, what we are able to research, is what we have going on online, that you're able to get from people. That is what we put into the narrative. So if the research and the mode of getting the knowledge is wrong, or it is not consistent with how the story is exactly, then there will be that change, there will be that break of how the story is being told. And more to what story is about, I feel like the African culture, it's very wide. It boils down. It's more than a story. We have the language, we have the outfit, we have the food, we have the values, we have the respect, we have the way we respect people, how we balance things, how we solve issues, how we help and assist each other, how things grow. So it's more than the God part of it. It's more than the religion part of it. So I feel like, as much as this is more than what we hear, is a part of the culture that has to do with the food, the dressing, and everything, the morals, and arts, our music, and so on. So I feel like over time, there are a few clarity in those directions. I feel like it is also better to actually move towards the area in which one have a full knowledge and represent it well. It gives more good stance to the culture, other than the supposed the narrative, the cinematic part that it's common these days. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that. And I like that you talked about documentation of history, which is something that we're heavily lacking, on the African continent. Well, very quickly, we also have joining us, would I say, the person of, or the voice of Ayankola Ayanwuyi, who is an author and cultural educator. Ayankola, thank you for being here, and thanks for joining us on the show. I'm just going to try and find out from Ayankola. We see a renewed interest now, particularly among young Africans, when it comes to reclaiming history. We see people now trying so hard to learn, their dialect. We see people trying so hard. Some of them are just effortlessly adopting their traditional names as opposed to the English name. So there's a lot of interest in looking for historical stories about the African continent. Why do you think that there's all of a sudden a renewed interest? Is it that we now have recently understood the value of history, or it's a case of if we don't know where we're going, at least we know where we're coming from.
Renaissance we're having for Africa, and especially high as a Yoruba people, is not that strange, especially because the world is moving towards the multipolar order now. There is nothing like Western dominance, how we used to have the hegemony of culture, European dominance over every other. The world is embracing their individuality and what makes them human in themselves. And because of our increasing exposure, of our people to the outside world, they see the reality of people embracing who they are, their identity, and they've discovered that it is through culture you can own a very distinct identity in the world out there. It is your culture that makes you distinct. If you, without your culture, without your history, you have no identity. You are nobody. You are an empty object walking freely, with no trace, with no genealogy, with nothing. So you absolutely own nothing outside of your cultural identity. You can't be the full of what Olodumare has sent you on here to do outside of your cultural identity, because this is the configuration. This is in your DNA. Every of these things are wired in you, and they are available in the ecosystem. Because human being, with the Western think, human being are only one, or we are more important than every other member of an ecosystem, but we are not as important as the tree in our world. That is the belief of Africa, and that is what we know, and that is a system that actually works and serve our people. You are not important more than the animal in your environment. You have to know that and know the truth. You are not important than the tree that is in your compound, because you exchange. We are in an ecosystem. We are not independent of our own. So we share all of this life, and it is from a place of culture we can build a sustainable development. This is what every other world is doing. You go to China. I've been to China. They don't even speak English. They speak their language. It's very rare to see people who speak English there. They embrace, they don't use all of these platforms we use. They have their own inbuilt system that serve their ecosystem, that serve their need, because every geographical location of people across the world has a very distinct or special need that is localized to them, that cannot be compared to every other need. So we need to come back to what defines us, to how we do our things, because when we continue to look at ourselves from the Western point of view, we begin to draw ourselves backward. We begin to take ourselves, when we think, oh, because Western has a form of writing system, we don't have that form of writing. When we begin to define ourselves from the Western point of view, we are drawing ourselves more backward. Of course, it is not bad to draw towards that order, to embrace that, but if we don't pick up or build ourselves from what order we have is Ifa. Our own system of documentation is very different from Western world. So until we accept and we begin to see ourselves as we are, we cannot make a distinct development or any progress in the world out there. And this has to begin from embracing our language, from embracing our indigenous knowledge system. And this is what I preach as an author, and especially doing some of this work around with my documentary filmmaking, storytelling, and all of that. I hope I've been able to make a point here with the question.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, Ayankola, for that very apt response. Let me come to Ayomide King now. And talking about misrepresentation, right? I think my question will be, in terms of correcting some of these narratives that we have maybe unintentionally put forward, or we have not even put forward at all, subjecting our history to misrepresentation, what role would you say that historians and scholars have played? Because it's one thing to not know about culture. There's certain things that I, for example, as a Nigerian, don't know. If I'm looking for this information and then I'm carrying about, a perception that the Westerners have somehow infiltrated in me, what role has, the historians played to make me see that what I thought it was is not what it is? Because if I go in search of, the true story, am I truly going to find the actual thing, what really happened? So have we had, historians and scholars put together the actual truth to debunk some of these myths that we grew up with?
Well, most of them are actually trying to do that. Though not all of them actually, but most of them are trying to do it.
And let me narrow it down. In your research, you know,
Yeah.
in filmmaking, how do you now then find the true stories?
So I read a lot. Like I read, and I'm opportune to meet like 2 generations before me. I met my dad. I met my mommy's dad. I met my mommy's dad. So I met a whole lot of them, and I'm close to them. How would I say? My great grandfather just died this year in August. So I met most of them. I'm close to the family, and I'm a Lagosian, and we know Lagos for their rich culture.
Yeah.
Lagos, I would say Lagos is like one space that still gives space for cultural heritage in Southwest, in Africa. So I move close to them. I do my own research too, and things I hear from them, they are top notch. So back to the historian, because I'm not a historian, I'm just a filmmaker. I still learn from people to make my films. Most of them these days now are trying their best. That is why we have more documentaries out there right now. I know of someone that is shooting a documentary. It's not about our culture, but I would still say it's more about our culture. How the Ijeburemo decided that okay, only the males should not go to school. There should be females in school too, because their belief is the females should end up in the kitchen, and the males should just go to school, learn and make. So they are trying their best now. We see more of documentaries. We see more of them into content. There's this particular guy on Instagram that I follow. I've forgotten his name. He comes out to even make us know how to even pronounce some traditional words.
Yeah.
He make us know how to call them, how to even. There was a time they called him out for coming out online to say was it not how to praise the God. If you are in need, this particular God, you can praise this particular God in this way, and it's going to turn up for you. I so much appreciated what he did, but it was called out online. Why will you do this? Why? But no, those are things we need to start doing. Those are things they need to do to help us know that yes, this is our culture. We are so much rich in culture that we just like abandon everything, and it is very, very wrong. So these historians are trying. I'll give it to them. They are trying. Though we need more of them. We need more to come out. Just like you said, filmmakers too need to do their own part, of which they are trying to.
So let me take it up from what you just said. So in terms of now, some of these, this this culture, it's not just culture. You know, in history, Shango worshippers, where that was their religion. It was the culture and the religion, but it also had religion in it. So if we were to bring back all of that, wouldn't there now be a clash of religion for those who already practice Christianity? Because I can tell for a fact that probably the reason why people came for him was because in their head they feel like he's telling people's children to worship a different, entity than the parents worship. So how do we then create a balance if we're trying to say, okay, this is strict based on culture, but we're not asking you to imbibe the religion. But then some of these cultural history is intertwined with religion. Do you get my point?
Yeah, I get.
So how do we then, bring people back to their roots without making their religion clash?
So I'm bringing you back to your roots does not mean you should convert. No. You can know your roots, you can know what you do at home, does not mean you convert. You can go. So Eyo is happening on the 27th. I'm a Christian. I'm already telling my dad, I am going for Eyo. The fact that I cannot carry Eyo does not mean I will not go. I so much want to go in that costume. But I'm a Christian, I can't do that. Because they'll say, this Christian, well, if you see me there, you can't tell me anything. So you going back to your cultural heritage does not mean you are converting. Know your God, worship your God. And so culture is different from your religion. Culture is your heritage, is something you met. It is a belief. But your religion is your own personal belief. You choose to believe whatever you want to believe. I know of many people that go to Osun Festival. Look at the Ojúde Ọba. We know many Christians and Muslims that go there. And Ojúde Ọba happens on a Saturday. And the next day, you see some of them at church. So I'm not asking you to convert just because me telling you to come and know what your culture is all about does not mean you're converting. It is a two different thing.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Let me quickly take Precious before we go on a break. Now, Precious, in terms of, we've talked about these events, this cultural practices that doesn't necessarily, according to Ayomide King, doesn't necessarily mean that you're converting. It's just about you knowing where you're from. I think I'm going to try to find out, what do some of these things represent? The fact that, festivals like the Ojude Oba, like the Eyo, is still happening now in a modern society. What message do you think that should pass across to both the, Nigerians that should know about their history and even the Western world? Because there's a reason why this legacy continues. It's not just because it's culture. There's a message that we're trying to pass across. What message do you think that would be?
According to your saying, there are this set of cultural things that still go on, and what message is passing to the people, that they are part of our cultures that are also good. So I think we should look into embracing that part. Let's say I think culture is so intertwined with religion so much. Now, the Western people bought their culture and their religion is so attached to it, and that is Christianity. When you see an Hausa man, you feel like this is a Muslim already, because their culture is to wear the hijab, wear the jalamia. Even a Christian there will dress that way. It's their culture, it's how they adapt to their environment. But now, there is a lot of separations that needs to be done, as much as the culture is intertwined with religion, because most times when you hear culture, the next thing that comes to people's mind is, that is Ogun, that is Oya, that is that part. But I have been able to go into separation, into how to separate. The advent of religion always changed things. And you being a Christian, for you now to say it's part of culture to carry your Egun or to go for Oya or Batala celebration and all of that, it's not according to your religion. The Christian religion will not support that. They'll say you can't serve God with mammon. That stands. Now, a part of this culture that values human, good human relationship, that values good human perspective to life, to development, to working together, those ones can be taken into cognizance and held well. For the other parts that interfere with the culture, according to your religious belief, stick with your religious belief. But then there are some parts that goes with it, like with like the dressing. As a Yoruba man, I believe when you're going anywhere, if you're dressed in your Yoruba outfit, put your cap, it's complete. The part of greeting the elders, you respect, you prostrate, you greet, you don't talk out to your elders, you share folk tales that brings things, you share proverbs that brings morals. Those are the part of the culture. Ojude Oba is a show of outfits, is a show of these people represent this set of this family, and we represent it, we showcase it with our adre, with our horses and everything. When we talk about, there are some other ones that are out there that are still very good, that showcase outfits and fashion other than religion. Those ones are very cool. The ones that showcase food, there is the Amalang out in Ibadan, a lot of them like that. They showcase food. Those ones can be taken into cognizance. It does not affect your religion. But when you're not talking about the in-depth one, as much as I said earlier, as much as the culture is very, very close to religion, there's always that part of separation whereby you have to know this is religion, this is culture. The way you wear your clothes, that is not religion, that is just culture. The way you greet your elders, the way you do mutual respect, the way you share your proverbs, those are culture, those are language, that is not religion. So it is high time we separate the both and value the culture, leave religion to its own space. Like there have to be that separation. So Ojude Oba is just a show of outfit, a show of fashion, a show of representation of this is who we are. It is different from religion. So I think those two parts, we need to really balance it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for that. While we wait to reconfirm if we still have Ayankola with us, I'm just going to quickly throw this question to Ayomide King. Very quickly, I want to find out now, after all said and done, what do you think that the African education system needs to incorporate? Because we've talked a lot about even our government history, we don't know, not to talk about cultural history. So what are the things that we need to incorporate into our school curriculum that the children can just grow, it becomes second nature. They don't have to be old, enough before they know about their history. They grow with it, they sing songs along. So what are those things that are missing in the education curriculum now?
History. History as a topic is missing. For years now. I left school now 12 years ago. Even before I entered school, they've been fighting to make history a core subject in school. But till date, I don't believe schools have history as subject. In my school, that year, they're like, history. I know of two particular parents that came to school and were like, our children said you want to teach history. Is that a main subject for you to teach them? You guys should teach them. We need to go back to our roots. Let these children know. If you can teach them Christian religious knowledge, Islamic religious knowledge, why then can't you teach history? I think this younger generation, it starts from school. The parents themselves don't know what they want to teach them. And I don't think all parents have that time to like sit children down. It is not bad. It is just the environment we are now. Most parents go out very early to earn a living for their children to live well. But school, bring in historians, bring in people that know about this thing, let them come and teach them. That way, they are going to know what they don't even know before. Those children that are teaching, trust me, most children go back home to tell their parents what they learn in school. I go back home to tell my mom, this new top. There was a time they taught us a Bible verse in church that I didn't understand in school. I didn't understand. I went back to my daddy that is a pastor. I was like, Daddy, this is what he explained to me. Same way you will teach some students that, okay, this is it. He will go back, Mommy, do you believe that they taught us this in school? They taught us this in school. The parents will be curious to know what that thing is all about. So the best way we can do that is from the educational sector. Let's start from that place first.
Okay.
Then we move forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. Let me come to Ayankola now. And I want us to focus now on the digital space. Now, unfortunately, we somehow believe that digitization equal westernization, and that's not necessarily the case. We've seen a lot of, westernization happening across the digital platform, where even Africans are now imbibing the Western culture, the way they dress, the haute fashion, the way they speak. There's so many things you can learn just by being on social media. So the question now is, how do we then utilize the digital space to reshape the public understanding, public opinion, perception of the cultural heritage, and also to imbibe cultural knowledge on the younger generation, because this is a heavily digitized generation?
Digital technology has come to stay. There's nothing we can do about that. All we can do is right placement, placing ourselves at the pivotal edge of this technology so that our database is not lacking on this platform. And most importantly, we have to make sure that we have a very good representation on it, so that when we come about digital innovation, these innovations are fueled by our indigenous knowledge system, not just digital innovation that serves other world or that doesn't meet the need of the local people, the one that come right at the center of their lifestyle, their everyday practices, and all of that. So there is a need for more content creator. There's a need for more effort to saturate the digital space with our knowledge system. I've been doing that, starting content creation recently. I've published book, Issue is Not Satan, is on the digital space. People can do that. There are countless other people. I think one of the guests also here is a content creator. So we need more effort from people contributing to this space, because everything we are contributing to in the internet space are data. And most especially in the era we are entering now, or that we are in now, which is of AI, the power or the powerhouse of AI is data. Data is the new good. Data is what fuel AI or machine learning. So if we don't supply this internet space with our data, with our knowledge system, I mean indigenous knowledge system, there's no way this could be used to train all of this AI in a way that serves us. For example, right now, most of African languages are low resourced for natural language processing. This has been hindering the development of auto speech to text system that can help translate or relate to people in Yoruba, maybe from English to Yoruba or something. English is a language that is being spoken by billions of people across the world now. And because of this, they naturally have a lot of data to train this AI so that all of this could be done. When I was in China, I couldn't speak their language, but one of the ways we were able to communicate is through auto speech. I have to record what I'm saying and it translates it to them. There are cases I have to translate to type also. If you do that for Yoruba language, you type something, you'll be surprised that the translation you are saying in English is not what you are saying. They won't be culturally relevant because African languages are so key in cultural context. So if we don't fill our space with our indigenous knowledge system, with all of this cultural context, there's no way these machines are going to have enough data to train it in the way that we have, this translation, this effort. So we need more people to come into this space to do these works. The ongoing efforts, most of them are not culturally relevant. You can try this with ChatGPT, Gemini, and most of the common search engine and AI engine out there. They are doing the work. They are trying for other languages, but they are so behind on African languages. So these are a lot of loopholes we have now, and people need to come more to create in their indigenous language, because most people are concerned about acceptability, the market of their business. People don't want to write in their indigenous language again. People don't want to speak or create content in that indigenous language because they will be like, who will listen to it? Who will hear it? But if I speak English, a lot of people will hear. This is time we need to become distinct. This is time we need to stand out who we are, because currently Yoruba itself is one of the 40 most spoken languages across the world, according to Ethnologue. So there are, in Africa alone, we have over 40 million speakers of Yoruba language. And for we to have this number, you have to understand that Africa is we are so diverse, even more than Europe. People think we are so diverse more than Europe, but we don't have to be the same to be one. These are key elements people need to study about our identity, who we are, how we are different, so that we can approach it rightly in a way that will sustain us and push us forward as a people, not us shrinking ourselves, trying to fit into other people's system, looking at ourselves from other people's point of view. Because, it's valid. It's just that we need to intensify this effort of decolonization. We have been colonized for over 400 to 500 years. That's a long time of suppression. That's so heavy. I don't know what word to use. That's so much for people to have a very complete change of mind, colonial mentality, and all of those. So we need a lot of effort to intensify this, to educate people. We need a lot of cultural educator, people who are going to research our indigenous knowledge system, what we really stand for, how we do our things, what are ideas we can draw from these things to develop our immediate today. Because heritage is not of the past. History is not of the past. No group of people across the world neglect history. You can't make any progress without history. History is your reference point. Your future is in your history. You don't have any future outside of your history. You don't have any future anywhere you are going outside of your heritage. You will just be perambulating and be living other people's life. Your history, where you are coming from, is your strength, is all you have to be different out there. So these are deep. A lot of people who might be listening to me may not even understand this I'm saying because they are so far apart from their identity, who they are. They will be like, what is he saying? What do you mean? So this is deep, and I hope that Olodumare help us to trace our path back to who we are. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you so much. And I can tell from the passion with which you speak that you're really intentional about making sure that, you know, the culture is upheld. I guess this is where we conclude for today. I want to say a big thank you to the gentlemen who have joined us today, our amazing guests, Ayankola Ayanwuyi, author and cultural educator. Thank you so much for taking time to be here. Ayomide King, actor and art director. Thank you so much for being here. Ogunmola Precious, content creator. We appreciate your time with us. And that will be all on today's episode of Fafanua Afrika. We have talked extensively about maintaining and carrying on our culture regardless of colonization. Thank you so much for staying with us. You can catch all past episodes on our YouTube channel at News Central Television. This has been Fafanua Afrika. I'm Blessings Mosugu, and do well to join us for our next episode. See you next week. And for now, have a wonderful rest of your day.